Well, we all strive for progress in any walk of life, but progress is very much the name of the game for trainer Jamie Snowden, who in the last jumps campaign notched up the best personal tally of his career, saddling 49 winners. Determined not to rest on his laurels, he looks to kick on as we head towards 2023, and we'll be chatting to Jamie, find out what makes him tick, what his plans and ambitions are for the future. Of course, looking back on some cherished memories from yesteryear. Welcome to Folly House Stables here in Lambourn. Well, Jamie, absolutely lovely to be here. Now, looking back at last season to begin with, 49 winners over jumps, the bonus one on the flat as well. You must be chuffed with the way things are going.
Yeah, last season was one of those incredible years where you know, as you say, sort of everything just seemed to click and seemed to go right, and to go and get 50 winners from just over 50 horses was amazing, and it's all credit to the team.
I'll say in terms of trainers never rest on the laurels, do they? In terms of transition into this year, has it been busy for you in the sales, or you just been topping up in small increments on the back of that success last season?
Yeah, we've been very busy at the sales actually. We bought a load of form horses this time round, so we've got far more horses that are ready to go. We get sent quite a few store horses and young horses as well. So it has been busy through the summer, and yeah, a good team hopefully for the season ahead.
So in terms of sales, do you have an area of the market you particularly like to tap into, or from a pedigree side of things? Are you open to all suggestions?
We're always looking to where we can find the next best horse really. But yeah, we bought horses with form, a few pointing horses, a few from France. So yeah, all over really.
They're fantastic, and it's very much as it was in terms of the personnel here in the yard. Obviously, Gavin Sheehan taken a lot of the rides, and we've obviously Paige Fuller as well has been instrumental in a lot of the success, and Kate Baker still pulling a lot of the strings here. So it's very much, even though the horses changed, the personnel and that kind of consistency is still here.
We're very lucky. We've got a lovely team of staff, as you rightly say, and Kate obviously started out the business when I started out, whatever it is, 14 years ago now. It was just her and I and one horse. So it's nice that we've built it up from there, still with the same team behind us. And as you know, it's all about the team.
Absolutely. Now, if we're going to go back to some memories of yesteryear, I'd have to tap into you soon as we've got you here on this lovely sunny day. But I was going to talk about the military connection, and then how this all came about from the military, if you see what I'm saying. How were the beginnings, and how did the training regime come about?
Well, do you know, funny you say that. It's actually a very good story. Obviously, I was riding as an amateur all the way through sort of late teens and university career, and I then joined the army, and there was one particular sort of sliding doors moment, if you want to call it that, was at Sandhurst, and there I was on guard duty and polishing my boots or polishing the rifle, whatever you do, and there was a knock on the guardroom door, and I was summoned up to the commandant's office. Obviously, I thought, you know, something terribly wrong had happened, and put my heels together and, you know, saluted, and anyway, he said, Snowden, you can ride horses. I was like, I can, yeah. He said, the Royal Irish Regiment, he was in the Royal Irish Regiment, and the Royal Irish Regiment had leased a horse to run in the Grand Military Gold Cup the following day. And the jockey was a girl called Lucy Horner, who again was in the Royal Irish Regiment, but she was stuck in Northern Ireland. There was a mortar attack on her base, and she was stuck in Northern Ireland, couldn't get out, so they needed a last-minute sub. So the following morning, the rest of my platoon were going into the gas chamber. They turned left into the gas chamber, I turned right and got into the commandant's car and got whizzed off to Sandown, and thankfully the horse won. We then got taken from Sandown to Windsor Royal Lodge for a drink with the Queen Mother and the Queen, and there I was, you know, came back that evening to Sandhurst, and the rest of my platoon were coming out of the gas chamber coughing and spluttering, and asked where I'd been, and there I was having a glass of champagne with the Queen Mother. It was,
You've been a 20-1 winner at
exactly. Rather sort of surreal moment, but that kind of changed the course of my army career, I suppose.
I was going to say, so what was the natural progression from army career to actual physical training? As you said, 2008, you took out your training licence. How did that come about?
So after my time in the army, I spent a bit of time at Nichols's at Pools. I was down there for a year. I was actually still in the army at the time, but that's another story. So I was down there for a year, and then I went to Nicky Henderson's. I was assistant and amateur there for 3 or 4 years, and then set up in 2008, as I say, with just Kate, myself, and one horse, and we got going down at just south of Salisbury, a little village called Ebbsbourne Wake. We had a few horses and a few winners, and kind of got going and moved up here in 2011. And we were obviously very lucky that the first year we were here, we had a Cheltenham winner. We won the Summer National that year, and things began to snowball to obviously the festival winner in 2014, and away it went from there, really.
Yeah, you mentioned the royal connection naturally there. I'm right in thinking you rode 3 winners for the late Majesty the Queen. I mean, that must have been some pleasure, and pride of place on the mantelpiece, some of those photos.
Yeah, you're so right. Pulling on those colours was an incredibly proud moment, and the fact that I've managed to have 3 winners for her as well was amazing. So it was days I certainly won't forget.
Indeed, and the Duchess of Cornwall as well has been involved in ownership in the Jamie Snowden yard.
That's right. She very kindly sent us a couple of horses. Carntop, Ravenous was the first one actually, and then Carntop, he won a couple. The most prolific was Pacify, who was a very good horse on the flat for Rafe, and came to us and won 5 on the bounce, including a listed race at Kempton, second in a Grade 2 at Cheltenham. So we've had a bit of luck for her, which is great.
Absolutely, yeah, fantastic. And I suppose you've got a great team of owners. All trainers always say that, but you've had some very loyal support from, including Sir Chips Keswick, and as you say, it's great to have that type of support behind you, isn't it?
Oh, wonderful. Obviously, Sir Chips obviously owned Present View, who won at the festival. He was the first nice horse for Chips, and he's been a big supporter of ours ever since, and hopefully we've got a nice couple for him this year.
Well, you lead me on to my next part I was going to talk about. We wind back to that hazy day at Cheltenham in 2014, and Present View winning the race. I remember you saying at the time, you think, oh, that's magic, I've got this training game sus now, easy peasy winning at the Cheltenham Festival. But just goes to show, isn't it, how hard it is to get a horse, just to peak and get there in one piece, but to get the job done. I mean, do you flick that DVD on a wet evening and watch it back? I mean, you must be immensely proud still of that afternoon.
Yeah, so it was lovely. Chips actually couldn't be there. Arsenal, he was obviously chairman of Arsenal at the time, and I think they were playing Bayern Munich over in Germany, so he actually couldn't be there. But he came down the Saturday afterwards, and he brought down the trophy, and he put it on the windowsill. And he said, I want you to have the trophy, Jamie. He said, because between now and the end of your day's training, there'll be plenty of good days, but there'll be far more worse days than good days. And every time you have a bad day, I want you to look at that trophy and remember the good days. So he knows the game inside out. And as you say, we do look at the trophy and remember it. But thankfully, we've had a few good days since, and hopefully a few more good days to come. Indeed.
Now, I remember speaking to you at the time, or not long after it, about am I right in thinking there was something to do your for some scientific experiment? You were wired up to a heart monitor for Present View, and tell us the story here in terms of your heart rate literally went off into the stratosphere.
Yeah, so your maximum heart rate should be 220 less your age. So mine should have been 175 or something at the time, and when Present View crossed the line, I think it went up to 185. So I was sort of almost in cardiac arrest when the horse crossed the line. But people say, what does it mean to you? How do you feel when you have a winner at the festival? And that is the best way to describe it. Your heart rate is just absolutely through the roof. I've got a graph in the office because obviously there was a stewards' inquiry. I don't know whether you remember, but heart rate came back down and flatlined, and thankfully the result remained unaltered, and up it went again. So they were doing an experiment on jockeys and trainers and lads and lasses leading up and what have you. So it was. I was just part of that experiment, and it's quite fun to have. There's
the evidence of the Cheltenham winner. Just look at the graph. You don't need to watch the race, indeed. And finally, then, in terms of plans for the future, I mean, what does the future for Jamie Snowden hold? I mean, in 20 years' time, do you envisage yourself stood here talking to me? I mean, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but in terms of, do you harbour any long-term ambitions specifically, or are we just happy with the progress and just take things as they come?
Yeah, I think obviously in sport and in racing, you can't get too carried away with what's going to happen in 20 years' time. But listen, we've been here at Folly House now for just over 10 years, and when we first moved in here, I think we had about 15 horses, and here we are with 55. I've just bought a bit of land the other side of the village. We're going to try and build up that side of it as well. So listen, we want to be here for the rest of our days and carry on training horses and keep going for as long as we possibly can do.
So Kiltealy Briggs, Jamie, he's been a smashing horse for you. Now, we've spoken about him on a few occasions. This horse is bred to get about 7 miles, but I know you've said you've just got it in you. You're not totally sure he stays much further than about 2 miles 4, 2 miles 5. I mean, would that be fair?
I think, I mean, at the moment, from all of his best form has been over 2.5, 2.5, 2.6 perhaps. But yeah, every time we have run him over 3 miles, he hasn't quite seen the trip out. So I think he's probably better forward ridden over a shorter distance perhaps. But yeah, listen, he's been a cracking horse, and hopefully there's some big days ahead of him.
I'll say, speaking of big days, do you have any specific targets in mind?
So the Grand Sefton's been the target for a while actually. He's a very good jumper. Obviously he's out of a sister to Briggs, who obviously won the national, and I think 2.5 round there should suit him. He's a bold front running kind of horse, and that race lends itself to that type of horse. So it's obviously earlier in the calendar this year. It's in November, so we're trying to get a prep run into him before heading there.
Indeed. Garlaw, one of the brightest prospects in your yard, I think it's fair to say, been on the sideline through injury. Can you give us a bit more detail on what happened there?
Yeah, so obviously he came over from France, and we sent him novice chasing as a 4-year-old, and utilising that weight for age allowance, he won at Fontwell, won a handicap at Exeter, and then he won the Grade 2 Rising Stars at Wincanton. Followed up with a very good third in the Henry VIII and second in the Pendle, carrying a penalty. Great runs, and we were then debating whether we went to Cheltenham or whether we went to Aintree. And I don't know whether you remember, but that was the COVID year when owners weren't going to be allowed to go to Cheltenham, but were going to be allowed to go to Aintree. So we bypassed Cheltenham with a view of heading to Aintree. Unfortunately, in one of his final gallops before Aintree, he picked up a bit of a niggle in a leg, bit of heat in a tendon. Nothing too drastic, but enough to certainly stop. So he missed all of last season, back in this year. And the plan is very much the Paddy Power Gold Cup at Cheltenham. Very keen to get a prep run into him. It'd be tough to go straight to the Paddy Power without a prep run, but as we know, it's been a very dry autumn. I've had him entered at Wetherby in the Bobby Renton. I've got him entered at Market Raisin on Saturday as well, but we could do with a little bit of rain.
I was going to say, in terms from a handicapping perspective, he's been eased to 142. Now, I say you trainers always moaning about weights going the other way, but off 142, you'd like to think he's got the scope to prove better than that.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, he was a 150 horse in his novice chase campaign, but having had a bit of time out, obviously the handicap has given him a bit of leeway. So, yeah, 142 you'd like to hope is workable in a nice race. So we just got to try and figure it out. As I say, it would be nice if we could get a prep run into him beforehand.
In terms of handicap chases, at least this side of the festival, the Paddy Power Gold Cup would be one of the biggest ones. Now, the ground at Presbytery Park in the November meeting's been softer, bordering on heavy, I think 4 of the last 5 occasions. And I noticed both his wins have come on good so far since he's been in training with you, although he did have form on deep ground in France, as they all do. Would it be a concern to you if we did get proper hot, deep conditions for November, or would you let him take his chance?
I think he probably wants a little bit further than 2.5 anyway. So
right.
Actually, softer ground over 2.5 is probably ideal. Listen, it's going to take a lot of rain to turn it to heavy now, isn't it? I mean, here we are in middle sort of end of October, and we're looking for any bit of cut in the ground that we can possibly find. So obviously it's a month until the Paddy Power. So it's going to take a lot of rain to turn it heavy.
Absolutely. For Parol, an individual with a lot of ability. How is he? I gather again he's been on the sidelines, but he's now due back in the yard soon.
Yeah, he just picked up a knock. I mean, nothing serious at all. So he's just been very easy on him. But in actual fact, he likes a little bit of cut on the ground. In fact, he likes plenty of dig in the ground. So in actual fact, it hasn't done him any harm. So we've just been patient. But he's working away, and he'll be ready when the rain does come in the winter.
Do you have any specific targets, or even not targets? I mean, what would be his ideal trip? Ground, right-handed, left-handed?
I think he goes left-handed, right-handed. I don't think that bothers him too much at all. The race that I'd really tried to target last year was the Lanzarote. Unfortunately, nothing really went right for him that day. There was a full start, and he ended up going quite wide around the final bend. He was only beaten about 6 lengths in the end. I think that's the race that I felt got away from us last year, and certainly I'd like to go back there this year.
The Soldier of Destiny, improving 6-year-old, won twice over fences, up to 137 now. So you're gonna have to mix it with some of the big boys, it has to be said. I mean, as you say, it's nice to have such an improving, progressive sort. Something like the Old Roan Chase could come into the equation for Soldier of Destiny.
Certainly, he won at his 2 wins last year in novice chases seemed to coincide with left-handed flat tracks. Listen, I don't. It probably means nothing, but after he won at Haydock, I was very much thinking the Old Roan would be ideal for him. He's in great order. You would not find a better jumper than him. He's a gorgeous horse, great to jump. Bit of soft ground, 2.5 miles, be perfect for him. I did try him over 3 miles last year at Newbury. He didn't quite get home. I do think he will be going that way at some point, but the Old Roan was the obvious starting point for him.
As I say, a year older, year stronger. Pedigree suggests definitely his hope that 3 miles by the end of the season would be well within range.
Exactly.
Legends Ryde, been a smashing mare for you. Must be one of the stable favourites. Seems to go on any ground, any weather, any day. Total opposite to me, really, it has to be said.
Yeah, she's a lovely horse. She was a very good bumper horse. She was second in a listed race at Cheltenham. She was a good novice hurdler, but COVID really sort of didn't help her at all. She cut her season short. We were definitely going to win that Newbury race, that Grade 2 mares final at Newbury. That was our target that year, and COVID cut her short. I think it was on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and obviously that race was on the Saturday. And then the whole year during COVID, she wasn't right. She had an irregular heartbeat, and things just didn't go right for her. But we got her back last season, and she proved an inspiration over a fence. She won 3 times. She was second behind L'Empresse at Ascot. She's obviously a GBB mare, qualified for those bonuses, and she won about £60,000, including bonuses last year, which is some effort for a mare. She's rated 128. I think those listed races would be perfect for her this time round. She might go for an intermediate chase at Newton Abbot perhaps on Saturday. Tough race that, but I think she's a nice mare and there's more to come from her.
I was going to say 2 miles, 3 miles, good ground, heavy ground. It all just seems to come alike to her.
Yeah, it seems to, doesn't it? There's that listed race at Market Raisin in November, 2 miles 7 listed mares race that I'd like to go for. So obviously we're keen to get a run into her, as I say, this weekend. So we've got her entered into a few places, but Newton Abbot could work.
Pisgah Pike had a very productive summer and seems to have a bit of a love affair with Market Raisin. A horse enjoys good ground, it would appear. With that in mind, will you let him roll on into the winter months, or is he going to be due a break soon and bring him back for the spring?
Well, listen, he's due a break soon, but it depends on what the weather does, because obviously it's so dry at the moment. There's every reason to think that he might just carry on. He's in a listed race at Kempton on Sunday. There's a handicap, a boys' handicap at Cheltenham at the opening meeting. But obviously he won the summer hurdle. That was very much the plan this year. He loves Market Raisin. He was third off top weight in the autumn equivalent. All eyes target the summer hurdle next year. It's a question of how we get there, but yeah, it'd be nice to go back there with a decent chance again.
I'll say strongly run 2 miles suits him. Do you think he needs to go right-handed, or is he just he likes going right-handed?
I don't think he needs to go right-handed. I think that a strongly run 2 miles, he's got a bit of pace, but he stays, and a strongly run race over 2 miles seems to be his ideal. Hence the reason why Market Raisin kind of works, because they get rolling some way out and you end up having to stay there. A bit like Kempton, they get, it's a speed track, but you've got to stay there. So I think those kind of tracks happen to be right-handed. I don't think he's better right-handed, but I think those kind of tracks suit him.
He went off a big old price, didn't he, in Market Raisin this summer?
We couldn't believe it. I think the market had him about 6 to 1, 8 to 1 all week, and as soon as I pressed declare, he went out to 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s. I think he went off at 22 to 1 or something ridiculous. But I thought somebody knew that he only had 3 legs, but thankfully he had 4, and thankfully he came home in front.
Tallow For Coal, unexposed 6-year-old, absolutely pulverised the field in Exeter early in the year. Didn't quite manage to replicate that level since. What would be the plan for this individual going forward?
Well, he was a young horse that we sent chasing early in his career, and he was always going to be a good stayer, jumped his fence as well. So we decided to send him chasing sooner perhaps than you necessarily would have done, and it paid off. But he's actually twice the horse again this year. He's a bigger individual, he's stronger. I think these local nationals would be perfect for him. The Summer National and the Sussex, all these regional nationals down at Fontwell and Wincanton and places like that would be perfect for him. But he stays, he jumps. he might be one for the Grand Military Gold Cup perhaps one day, but
Could we get you out of retirement?
yeah, certainly not me. I'm done on the riding front.
Git Maker, won 3 times for you over hurdles. Untapped potential there, I think it'd be fair to say.
Git Maker, he won 3 of his 4 starts last year in novice hurdles. Didn't get beaten far in a handicap on his other start at Sandown. Good race that one. Turned out to be a decent race, I think. Really lovely individual. Stays well, jumps well. He's going to go novice chasing. You'd like to hope that he can develop into a decent novice hurdlist. You know, listen, if we're dreaming, something like the Reynolstown or something like that might be up his street. 2 mile 5 round Ascot, good staying track, and yeah, that could be his thing.
Now, Datsalrightgino won at Cheltenham's December meeting. Was beating the likes of JPR1, wasn't on that occasion, if memory serves me correctly. Absolutely flew up the hill there. Got bogged down, didn't he, on very deep ground in the Tolworth, etc. I presume you're looking at better ground, which, as you see from the skies behind you, is exactly what we're getting at the moment. Will you stick with hurdles with him, or is chasing always going to be his game?
No, chasing's going to be his game, yeah. Big individual. I've always loved this horse, always loved him. I couldn't believe he got beaten in a bumper. He finished second in 3 bumpers. But as we know, sometimes you need a bit more stamina to win these bumpers, and actually he's got a little bit of speed. And he obviously won 2 novice hurdles at the start of last autumn. As you say, got bogged down on deep ground through the depth of the winter. But yeah, he's going to go novice chasing. He's in at Newton Abbot on Saturday, and that'll be the plan.
In terms of trip, you stepped him up to 2.5 at Cheltenham's April meeting. Would that be the distance you'd be pursuing? Would you be coming back?
No, coming back to 2. Yeah. We only stepped him up to 2.5 because I wanted to run him in a novice without a double penalty, and the only option was over 2.5 at that Cheltenham meeting. So that was the only reason why we stepped him up in trip. I do think he wants 2 miles.
Right, he just didn't stay as straightforward.
He just didn't stay at Cheltenham that day, yeah.
Guinness Affair. Only rated 115, lightly race sort in yard, has won a couple of times over hurdles and looked pretty smart in doing so.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he won a bumper and 2 novice hurdles. Unfortunately, he got injured down at Exeter when we ran him in a conditional jockey's handicap. I thought he was very well handicapped that day. That's why I spied a conditional jockey's race, and I thought I'd try and sort of extend the sequence. He had won 3 on the bounce. I thought we could win 4 or 5, maybe even 6 on the bounce. So I was kind of getting carried away. But he got a bit injured that day, so he's missed a bit of time. But he'll be back for the spring, and he'll go chasing then.
He'll go chasing then. When I said only 115, I was surprised when I looked at the official ratings that to see him on such a lowly mark. Is that you like to feel there's a novice handicap chase then off that type of rating? Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking a conditional jockey's race would be perfect, because I thought there was a lot of scope left in that handicap mark. But he's a lovely horse, jumps well. So I thought we might resume Way's novice handicap chasing in the spring. I know
his form and his wins have come on a pretty sound surface. Would that be key to him?
He just struggles a little bit with his wind. So hence the reason why the better ground just helps him out.
And finally, Milldam was a French recruit, if I remember rightly. You got over last season. I finished mid-division in the Boodles at the Cheltenham Festival, far from disgraced in that lofty company. Now, I remember you saying for Milldam, you want to see some rain clouds around. I presume, is that still the case?
Yeah, he's by Martlene. He definitely wants a bit of softer ground. He ran very well, as you said, in the Boodles, but it was on the first day, and obviously the ground was pretty quick that day. Obviously the heavens opened that night and it became a bog the following day, which would have been perfect for him. But he does want a little bit of softer ground, but I'd like to run him over 2 miles soft ground. We were just debating whether to go novice handicap chasing with him this time around, utilising his 4-year-old weight for age allowance. But he's a nice young horse. His family isn't as precocious as some French horses, so I think we're going to stick to novice hurdling this year. But he's certainly one to look forward to.
I'll say perhaps there's the Mattison's hurdle in the Cheltenham October meeting. Obviously, if the ground was soft enough, would that be
that could be a target, but I'm not sure the ground will be quite soft enough for him. So we might end up just starting out in maiden hurdles, novice hurdles, and working our way through that. There's obviously that listed race over 2 mile 2 at Exeter, which I've kind of half had my eye on if we were going to stay hurdling. So that's in February. That kind of race would be ideal for him.
Well, we've got you doing the rain dance. In terms of new recruits, you said there's a little bit of a transition during the summer. You have 55 in your boxes at the moment. I mean, how many new faces are there at Folly House?
That's a very good question. Yeah, quite a few new faces. Obviously,
I was hoping you'd give me a number there.
Yeah,
I was testing you.
Yeah. Of the new ones, listen, we've got some really nice ones that come from the pointing ranks, including Roger Pole, Regard, Bill Jack, and then we passing well. He's new to us this year. He finished second at the Punchtown Festival. He looks a nice sort. So hopefully there's a few nice ones.
Well, Jamie Snowden, many thanks for your time and best of luck with the rest of the season.
Perfect. Many thanks.